Most of us can easily find things to be thankful for when times are good, when things are going well, when we have jobs and we're able to work, when our families are healthy and doing well, when pleasant things are happening in our lives and everything is going the way we hope it will. It's easy to be grateful. But what about the times when things are not so good? When we're out of work or we're sick or we're struggling? When things aren't going the way we expected them to go? How about then? Do we struggle to find things to be thankful for when life is tough? I read a quote somewhere that said, when things are going well, people tend to take credit for themselves, for their successes. And when things are going badly, they tend to blame God. Whether we're taking credit for our own successes or when we're blaming God, where is the thanksgiving in all of that? We're going through a particularly tough time right now. A pandemic, political unrest, racial and social conflict, financial hardship, loved ones are sick, and healthcare is stressed to capacity. Many of us aren't seeing friends and family outside of our own households right now because it's simply not safe. And we may not even be celebrating the holidays this year with them the way that we usually do. So how do we give thanks when life is like this? God instructs us to give thanks in all things, both the good and the bad, in 1 Thessalonians 5:18. In good times, rather than taking credit for our own successes and our good fortune, we must remember that everything good in our lives comes from God, and we need to be giving thanks for that. James 1:17 reminds us that every good and perfect gift comes from God. Okay, so you might be thinking, I can do that. I can give thanks to God for all the good things that are happening in my life. But what about the not so good? How do we give thanks in the not so good? Today, I'd like to suggest 3 things that will help you give thanks, even in the midst of the most challenging and difficult times. First, we need to shift our focus. About 15 years ago, I was going through a very difficult time, and one of my mentors challenged me to find just one thing each day to be thankful for and write it down. I was really struggling and everything seemed dark and bleak, and I couldn't see anything good in my life. So I bought a little journal and I forced myself to sit down at the kitchen table and write just one thing I could be thankful for each day. At first, it was really difficult, but even on my worst days, I could find at least the smallest thing that I could be thankful for. And as the days went on, I found it easier to focus on things that I noticed each day that I could be thankful for. Maybe a note from a friend, or a kind word from a stranger, the food I ate, the bed I slept in, a beautiful sunset, a quiet moment. As the months went on, I began to notice something. My difficult circumstances had not changed, but my outlook had. Keeping my little thankfulness journal had transformed my thinking from a glass half empty kind of girl to a glass half full kind of girl. I even bought this cute little pillow that says, there's always, always, always something to be thankful for. Philippians 4:8 urges us to fix our thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. I was learning to fix my thoughts on everything that was good. Romans 12:2 tells us to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We are encouraged to let God transform us into a new person by changing the way that we think. And God was transforming me, changing the way I thought. Well, the second thing that we need to remember is what God has done for us. Luke 15:24 reminds us that we were once lost, but God found us. Ephesians 2:8 tells us that God saved us even though we didn't earn it and we didn't deserve it. 1 Thessalonians 5:5 tells us that we were once in darkness, but Jesus has brought us into the light. And Galatians 4:7 tells us that we are no longer the slaves that we once were, but we are now God's own children and heirs to the kingdom. God found us, God saved us, God brought us out of the darkness and into the light. He made us his own children so that we would inherit his kingdom. And the only reasonable response for what God has done for us is gratitude. Take a look at this scene from Toy Story 2, where Mr. Potato Head saves a group of small aliens during a crazy car chase.